1.6, if you want to write a linear piecewise function from a graph, what we know is that linear functions are able to be written in the form y equals mx plus b. So for each piece of the graph, we're going to figure out what m and b are, and then we're going to find the domain or the x values for each piece as well. So down here at the bottom, that's kind of what your function will look like. This would be a three-piece function. It has 3 rows on it. So if I take this graph here in the middle, just remember to find b on some of these pieces. They're not long enough, so you might need to extend it so that it crosses the y-axis for you. So for the left piece over here, we're going to find m, so we just pick 2 points on the graph, and we're going to rise, 1, run, 1. So the slope was 1, and then it's not extended long enough to get the b, so I'm just going to keep on going. So my b would actually have been at 2, so I have b equals 2. So for that first piece, when you write your function, you'll put f of x, g of x, h of x, one of those equals, and then I would do 1x plus 2 if, and then I'm going to look at the domain. So on this green one, my first point was at -1 on the x-axis, and it goes left. So for my x part back here, it's going to be x is less than, because it goes left, that's a less than, and then my dot was filled in, so less than or equal to whatever that number is at that dot, so -1. Don't use the y value, we're doing the domain, so you want to use the x value. Then if we move to the middle piece, it's the same idea. M would be, if I use this point and this point, rise, 1, run, 1. So M is 1. On this one, you can tell where B is because it already crosses the y-axis. 1, 2, B is 3. So I've got 1x plus 3 if, now notice that one starts and stops. It has a starting dot and a stopping dot. So you're going to figure out both of those numbers. The first number would be -1, and the second number would be +1. So we want x to be in between those two numbers. So we start with -1. We put x in the middle. We end with 1. And then for our symbols, they're not filled in. Did you notice that? This is an open circle. So when we write the domain, we do not want an equal to in there. If I read that backwards, x is going to be greater than -1 and less than 1. So that would be the second piece. Third piece, do the same thing again. So pick 2 points. We got rise 1, run 1. So the slope is 1/1. And then I'm going to extend that out again because it doesn't cross the y-axis right now. So I'm going to use that slope to help me. If I go 1 and 1, my b ends up equaling 1. I got 1x plus 1 if, and then that filled in circle is at 1. Since it's filled in, it's equal to. And then do you notice it goes to the right? That would be greater than or equal to 1. and then that whole function would be your answer. So for each piece, we're finding m and b, and then we're putting the domain on the back of it. So I'm going to try one more with you just to make sure we have it. So I'm going to do the left piece first, over here. The slope on that one, rise 0, run 1. So your slope is 0. And then your y-intercept, remember h of x is just like a y. That's the same as a y. So your y-intercept is at 2, crosses at 2. So since it says h of x up here on the y-axis, that's what the name of my function is going to be. H of x equals, give me a bracket, and then we've got 0x plus 2. If I have a closed dot at 1, and it goes left. So x is less than or equal to 1. Second piece, my slope, if I pick 2 points, rise 1, run 1. The slope is not always 1. Just count your boxes like we always do. So 1x. I can't tell where that crosses, but maybe you can, but I'm going to use the slope again. So down 1, back 1, down 1, back 1. So that line would have crossed at b equals 0. 0 would be the y-intercept. So plus 0 if I check the domain out on that one, it starts at 1 and goes to the right. So x is greater than 1. I do not want the equal to because it's an open circle. Okay, if you took a multiple choice test, that would not be the answer that they would have on there. They would go h of x equals, this part you don't need, so 2 if x is less than or equal to 1. That 0 we don't need, so then they would just have x if x is greater than 1. So in review, for each linear piece, we're going to focus on linear piecewise functions. You need to find the slope, rise over run, and the y-intercept b, and that will help you write your function. That's always the first part of your function here. And then behind, you've got your domain. If it's equal to, it's a closed dot. If it's not equal to, it's an open dot.